Hi.
Hi.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
How's everyone doing?
Good.
Great. How are you?
I'm well. Oh, just trying to do my setup here. Perfect.
Yeah. There we go. I think I'm centered now. I've invited Brianna as well. Let me just make sure.
Hi, everyone. So excited for today's live. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Hi, Brianna.
Hi.
Hi.
Alrighty. Yay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Looks like we have quite a bunch of people that have already been here with us, which is great. So I just want to start off by saying thank you to being here. We've got Chi, who was with us on our very first live series, and which turned out amazing. Today we've invited Brianna onto the series, and she's going to talk a little bit about her personal story. And then we have board certified dermatologist Dr. Margarita
Hi,
Lolis,
everyone.
who is also on the advisory board here at Phoilex, and she'll be answering some of our questions today. If any of you guys have some questions, we invite you to drop them in the chat. And at the end of the live, we'll try to get to as many as possible. Brianna will help moderate that for us as well. So I think we can get started. So there's over 200 million people in the world that are dealing with chronic skin conditions, and over 70% of these people will be offered a steroid at least one time in their life. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the mind-body connection and a little bit about steroids and what some safer alternatives may be. And if you want to learn more about steroid use or what can happen if misused, or a little bit more with TSW, we invite you to check out the International Topical Steroid Awareness Network, also known as ITSAN, where you will find a lot of information there. There's also 50% of these people say that it affects their sleep. In children, it affects their school. With adults, it affects productivity. So there's a lot of things that happen that are outside of the skin condition that are part of our mental. And that's why we are having this talk, because we are going to discuss mental and skin concerns and how the two play a part in one another. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Chi to introduce herself, and we'll go from there.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much, Serena. My name is Chi Valines, and I am an eczema patient advocate. I currently live in Florida, and I've worked with Phoilex over the years, raising advocacy for eczema and also topical steroid withdrawal. And I'm super excited to be here with Dr. Margarita Lolis and also Bree to continue this conversation. So, Dr. Lolis, I'm sorry. We're going to get started with Bree and her introducing herself and telling us a little bit about her background.
Thank you, Chi. Hi, everyone. My name is Bryana. I go by Bree, and I was diagnosed with eczema, but specifically atopic dermatitis when I was just 4 months old. Then, when I was just 2 years old, I was prescribed topical steroids for the first time, and I would go on to use topical steroids for over 20 years. It wasn't until the last couple years when I started exploring other non-steroidal options and other alternative treatments for my skin. And eczema is still something that I deal with. I have been sharing my journey, my eczema journey, and all the twists and turns that come with that on social media. And that has just plugged me into the most amazing online community. So I'm so grateful to be here. Phoilex, thank you so much for including me.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much, Bree. And now, where we're going to talk with Dr. Lolis about the steroid dilemma and just kind of adding in that skin stress and sleep conversation.
Absolutely. So let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Margarita Lolis. I am a board certified dermatologist, and I've been in practice for about 15 years now. And eczema is kind of the bread and butter of dermatology. We see it all the time. It's a chronic skin condition. So I see kids from, 3 months, 6 months to adults who haven't grown out of it. And it's a real tricky disorder to treat because, the mainstay of therapy is really steroids, but when it becomes this chronic condition, we can't keep on treating patients with steroids. It's just not good for the skin, and there's a lot of side effects. And the most dreaded is the topical steroid withdrawal. So I've been on the advisory board here for about a year, and I'm so excited to be part of this team and also have something remarkable to offer to my patients that's not a steroid to kind of keep them off of using steroids chronically. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction. We're just going to go into a few questions to get this
Okay.
conversation rolling. So, Dr. Lolis, we often hear that stress and lack of sleep makes eczema worse. Can you explain how the mind, body, and the skin are connected?
Sure. Okay. So absolutely, lack of sleep and stress are major causes for eczema flares. And the connection between body, mind, and skin is very real, and it's actually scientifically backed. Okay. So eczema itself is multifactorial. There is a genetic predisposition and a mutation in filaggrin, which is one of the proteins you have in your skin, which kind of strengthens the skin barrier. But with that said, people are often very surprised to hear how connected the mind, body, and skin are. But as dermatologists, we see it all the time. So basically, what happens is when you're stressed, you produce cortisol, and that's our main stress hormone. Okay. And usually, if you're like acutely stressed, it'll peak, it'll rise, and then it goes down. However, when it is consistently high and you're consistently stressed, it does trigger inflammation in the body, and that includes the skin. And we know that this type of inflammation can actually weaken your skin barrier. Okay. And it makes it more prone to dryness, irritation, redness, especially in these patients that are eczema prone. So here's kind of how the cycle starts, right? So you're stressed, your eczema flares. Then your skin, your eczema flares, your skin flares, and you start feeling more anxious and uncomfortable. And the stress just keeps on fueling this inflammation in the body. And as dermatologists, we actually do have a term for this. It's called the itch scratch stress cycle. And it's just this cycle that is very hard to break. Okay. And again, we can't just keep on prescribing steroids for this. And sleep also is very important because when you sleep, that's the period you have in the day for the skin to repair itself. Okay. And so if you don't sleep enough, you don't have enough repair. And it actually makes your body produce more inflammation, more of these inflammatory molecules that makes your skin weaker and more reactive. And actually during the night, you actually do have increased histamine levels. And that's kind of the molecule which causes itch. So that is exactly why it's very important to kind of, get a good sleep routine in and try and minimize your stress. It's easier said than done, but they are definitely very common triggers for eczema. And it's just astonishing how, everything is kind of connected in the body and your skin really mirrors what is going on internally.
I personally think stress is my number one trigger, and it was so hard for me to understand that concept because stress is kind of like an invisible trigger, right? So you're going through stress or things have changed in your life and your skin is more inflamed or flaring more, and you never think that, like, oh, I'm a bit more stressed than usual. I don't know if that's been your experience, Bree, but that's something like for me that like understanding that mind, body, and skin connection was like an aha moment, but no, I never had that conversation with a dermatologist. So it was really hard to kind of arrive to that understanding.
Definitely. And I find that like stress can trigger my skin. So I'll be stressed, I'll get itchy, I'll scratch my skin, and then I'll be stressed because my skin is flaring because I scratched it, and then it just becomes a cycle.
The cycle.
Exactly. And, the cortisol is such an important trigger for a lot of skin conditions, rosacea, hair loss, eczema, psoriasis, and it's one of the first questions I really like to ask my patients when they come in with these changes. How's any recent stress, anything you've been undergoing, because it's really important to kind of see things holistically and treat it in that fashion.
I really, as an eczema patient, I really do appreciate, you having that conversation with your patients, because I feel like a lot of us may have experience where, you know, that conversation was never brought up. So that's something also good for parents to know. You can also bring, this question to your dermatologist and to your team, if possible. And that's going to lead us into some of our next questions is what skincare routines, I'm sorry, for the parents. Parents often say their child scratched at night and cannot sleep. So, what are some practical steps that families can take to help with this?
Yeah, so I hear this all the time, especially in infants. They're saying my kid is crying all night, they have scratch marks, they're scratching at night, they haven't slept all night, it affects the entire family. And so, few things. So, first of all, before going to sleep, you always want to apply a moisturizer, preferably an emollient, which is like something occlusive, like Vaseline, Aquaphor, right before bedtime, because it really coats the skin and it decreases loss of moisture, right? And then if you have these eczema patches, you also want to apply a soothing ointment such as Phoilex, which kind of soothes the skin so that you get into your sleep cycle easier instead of being kept up from the start from scratching. So another thing, especially for infants but also for adults, you want to keep your nails short. And also in infants, you can try covering their hands with like a cotton mitten or something of that nature. The other big piece of advice I have is clothing. So you want to wear light pajamas, preferably cotton. A lot of synthetic materials are, not good for the skin and they kind of overheat. These fabrics cause like overheating, maybe some sweating, which is irritating. And you can also put a humidifier in the room, which keeps the air moist,
Yeah, that's a good one.
and try and keep the room temperature cool. Because again, the goal is comfort. So less heat, less itch, better sleep.
And we have a comment that says Liberty Drops. So I want to add in some Liberty Drops information to Serena if you want to kind of add that in here.
Yeah, so I think for those that don't know, healthy skin from within is what we go by here at Phoilex, and it's all because of during our formulation and creating this brand. It's all about the mind and the skin, and sleep and stress was like the number one thing in my life and in my father's life that we noticed was the major issue, and that was the first thing that we actually formulated when building this brand, and that is what really took his sleep level to be able to have a good night's sleep at night from sleeping on the kitchen table because of pain, not being able to have clothing touch him, to be able to having a great night's sleep and being able to say, wow, I actually slept great that night. So it's really important that people understand the stress and the sleep and what how that plays a part in the skin, because people are like, no, it doesn't have anything to do with that. My skin hurts. And it's like, yeah, because it's this vicious cycle of your mind on a race and your skin on a race. And we try to come together to bring that as a whole. So the Liberty dynamic drops not only help the mind and stress and calm and sleep, but it's also packed with a bunch of really great botanicals and herbs that help with inflammation within the body and liver detoxification process. So it's something that we recommend that you can take daily. And I would love to answer some more questions for you guys on that afterwards.
Awesome.
And if you
Thank you.
think about it, at nighttime, you're also less distracted, right? There's less external stimuli, so you're going to focus more on that pruritus or itching, and you're going to scratch more. So
Yeah, and sometimes you just need to shut off. And even there's sometimes like your mind's going, your skin's bugging you. It's you have so much to do in the morning. You're a little bit hyper, and I find that for me, the Liverty drops work very well in the morning. They actually help balance me quite a bit. Whereas at night they help me sleep. So that's something you can take into consideration as well.
I love to take them at night as well. It helps me like decompress. Take a
Yeah,
nap.
it's more of like that like relaxation where I find in the morning it's more of that balance. Yeah.
So we've already talked about stress being a trigger, but I want to ask about what are some common triggers for flare-ups and how can people identify them on their own? It took me a really long time to learn how to identify some of my triggers. So how can we go about that, Dr. Lolis?
So I think like first it's important to know like, what are common triggers, right? So you guys probably know this from your personal experience, but extreme weather shifts are very common triggers. So we're talking about cool, dry, or very hot, sudden heat, because, cool air dries out your skin. Heat makes you sweat. Sweat is an irritant, right? So that's one. Number two, allergens, very common. So pollen, dust, pet dander, all of that can be allergens, which can trigger your eczema. Like we talked about, the stress and the sleep is another big one. And then there's irritants. So irritants include things like fragrances, harsh detergents, disinfectants. They all kind of damage your skin barrier and make you more prone to eczema. Water exposure is another huge one. So typically patients say that they feel better if they take a hot shower, but in reality, taking a long hot shower, it may be relaxing, but it's actually drying out your skin.
It's
So,
no
and it's
good.
removing all those like natural oils and it worsens the dryness. So what I tell patients is just try and keep a skin diary for about 2 weeks and you'd be amazed how quickly those patterns become apparent, where you can kind of pinpoint maybe what is flaring your eczema.
Yeah, I had to go through that at one point when I was getting the face eczema, which was new to me at a later stage in my life.
Right.
And I had to go through every single thing that I was doing with my face
And
from
how did you do that? How did you do that? Because like I didn't hear about a skin diary until way into my, eczema
I
journey.
actually
So,
didn't do a skin diary. I actually just
okay.
like went through like what do I do every single day on my face? And I would just pay attention to those things and try different things different times. So like for example, right now I have pretty much a full makeup routine on, but at that time I was trying like one thing at a time to see if there was an irritant. My makeup brushes, what I was eating, what I was drinking, because I don't have any allergies specifically. And at that time, I had even gone to an allergist to see if maybe there was something new happening. There was not. And then I started to see like what I was eating, what I was drinking until I finally believe I nailed it down, which was like travel, weather, and actually tannins in wine. So for
Okay.
me, it seemed that that's a trigger for me at that time.
Okay.
So I've kind of went through that cycle as well because when you're used to like your elbows, your hands, it's almost like Dr. Lola said, it's sweat areas, right? And it's weather change for me and it's environmental and whatnot. But on your face, you're kind of like, okay, am I doing something different? Am I using a cream I
Yeah.
shouldn't use? And I've been used to using more sensitive products on my face my whole life. So that's also kind of a backing for me too, because am I drawing a new allergy to a product that I've been using for my whole life or that's been working for me? So it takes some time for sure, but that's definitely a really good way to figure that out.
Have you ever had any experience with using a skin diary, Brie? Or
Yes,
or, paying more attention to, kind of those individual things?
yes, definitely. And it was actually something that it was quite a learning curve for me to start listening to my body in that way because
Mhm.
for decades, at any sight of itchiness or a flare coming on, I would just put a steroid on it that would numb it for all intents and
Take it away.
purposes in a way. It
Right.
would take it
The
away. It would
magic
go
Temporary
away.
pill.
band-aid.
I wasn't used to listening to my body in that way. So keeping a skin diary definitely helped me to start doing that. And something that Dr. Lolis mentioned about a trigger was temperature shifts. And I wanted to touch on that because I live in Florida like Chi. So there's not big temperature shifts here, but something that I have noticed is that on a much smaller scale, my skin starts to get really itchy with even the smallest temperature shift. So if I'm changing my clothes and I go from having clothes on to not having clothes on, I'll get itchy. Or if,
Mm.
when I go to use the restroom, same thing, like take my pants off, my legs always get so itchy. So when you think the temperature shift, it's not necessarily always a complete change in climate. It can just be on a much smaller scale of a change like that, and a difference in like your skin's ability to regulate its temperature.
Oh, I love that. I'm thinking of especially when your skin is highly inflamed and you're going through, major flare-ups. I've experienced that. That's really, really
Yeah.
such a good one to bring up. Um, So we're going to open up the conversation and we're going to talk about asking Dr. Lillis, can you explain how chronic skin conditions are not autoimmune issues? We had a conversation about the terminology being immune mediated issues. And can you explain the difference between the two?
Absolutely. So a lot of patients come in and, I tell them, oh, you have eczema, you have psoriasis, and they get all concerned. Oh, I have this autoimmune disorder. And so, classic autoimmune diseases, things like lupus, diabetes type 1, they occur because your body is recognizing something inside of it as foreign, and then your body attacks it. Okay, so your body's attacking its own self, basically. When something is immune mediated, it's not that your body's attacking. There's dysregulation in your immune system. So there's overproduction of your inflammatory, markers, cytokines, we call them, which overproduce and causes, inflammation. So it's not like that it's directly attacking something like a
Right,
protein or anything in your body.
right,
It's just kind of like you are, like in overdrive.
right.
This is a very interesting question for me. I think like with us and having John and all the research that we've done, and yeah, like it's kind of autoimmune, and it's a lot of people think the basis is autoimmune, but like hearing your term on our first call and discussing this with you today, is amazing. I think a lot of people do want to know more about autoimmune or auto mediated, and it makes sense because essentially the way we explain it is that your inflammatory markers are high, and that can be not just from like what your body's producing or cortisol levels and things like that, but it could be from what you're internally digesting, which is also like environmental factors and things like that. Like all of these things can lead to that, and sometimes that's when your body just really needs that cleanse, needs that detox, it needs that reset, and that's another reason why we started with supplements before we got into our active release spot gel. So learning the exact terminology for that, I think, is really important for us here and also for community to learn more about.
I like to use this smoke alarm analogy for my patients. So, if you think of your body or your immune system as, a smoke alarm, right? And you have a piece of furniture that actually goes on fire, the smoke alarm is the detector is going to go off. But sometimes you'll see, as you've experienced, a burning candle, like burn toast, whatever. Sometimes it can trigger your smoke alarm, right? So that's kind of the difference. So it's not like you're, actually there's a fire. It's just that you're too sensitive
Hmm.
to, you know, the alarm goes off more easily, I guess you can say. So that's kind of
Yeah.
how I like to explain it to patients.
Which makes sense because now, okay, something maybe you haven't had a flare in a bit, but maybe now it's coming, and that's a smoke alarm. Like, what was it? Did I,
Yeah.
am I stressed out? Maybe that's a way that we can look at that, like using that smoke alarm analogy. Was I traveling recently, which is something that's for me, I noticed during travel with airplanes, I
Oh my
flare.
God.
I think it's like the what's it called in the airplane when it's
The circulating air, the dries.
yeah, like
Pressure. Yeah.
that, and then getting out into a new country, I find that's a little bit of an issue for me too. So like that could be a smoke alarm. So yeah, I like that analogy. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're going to have one more question and then we're going to go through some of our comments. Dr. Lolis, what's the best way for patients to ask about non-steroid treatment options without worrying about offending their doctor or seeming difficult?
Okay. So, as a caveat, I would say, like, you want to, especially when you have like a chronic disorder, you really want to find a doctor that you feel comfortable with, where
Right.
you don't even have to worry about offending them. Um, that's really important because, you're going to develop this, hopefully long-term relationship with them. So you want to have open communication. But say you are a little nervous. You can say something, well, I've read a lot. I've heard there's a lot of new developments in the field and new non-steroidal remedies.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit about them and what your opinion is? And so, like, when patients ask me that, I automatically, it's like a trigger in my head. Okay, I know, like, I can even tell on their facial expression if I try to prescribe a steroid, they don't want to use the steroid,
Yeah.
right? So I pivot and I
Yeah.
try and give them all of their options. And so, I um, go through all the options, but most of the time I do recommend Phoilex Active Relief Spot Gel
Oh,
because,
that's awesome.
yeah, because, well, first of all, the feedback is amazing, right? My
Yeah.
patients do love it. It's fragrance free.
Yeah.
Okay. It's, moisturizing. It has the colloidal oatmeal, which is instantly soothing. But so those are all like the basics, but I think what makes it different, which is why patients like it and which is why I really feel comfortable recommending it, because I'm not going to recommend something that I don't believe in scientifically, I guess you can say.
Absolutely. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
they're the actives in it, this phytoactive blend, right? They are specifically designed to kind of help combat that inflammation, those inflammatory molecules in your skin. So instead of like putting a band-aid on it, like with the
Mhm.
steroids suppressing it,
Right.
these actually kind of decrease and balance out the cascade of overproduction. And so I think that that is why it's such a great product. So it decreases the inflammation, but it also gives you moisture and it's
Yeah.
also soothing with the oatmeal. So it's kind of treating it in every kind of direction in which you can without using that steroid, which is basically just going to suppress that immune response.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I love to use it as a spot treatment personally,
Mhm.
because I have flares that are not as large as they used to be, but I have reoccurring flares like on my elbows and on my feet, and I love to go in and use the Forlex spot gel. And I've, obviously recommended this to so many people. I just had an event where someone came up to me and she said, "Girl, the Forlex spot gel." I lied to you not. She said, I used it for my son. And she was like, this is holy krill. I was like,
I
I
love
know.
that.
I
That's
was like,
so
I
sweet.
already know.
That's amazing. Honestly, guys, like it's crazy that to me, I'm still in disbelief. Like even us winning Beauty Matter Award, it's sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we are here. But I think like through what Dr. Margarita Lolis is saying is through formulation, it was very important that we were continuing to formulate until we got to a point that we felt that it was able to use from flare ups and in between, and safe to use in between when you weren't flaring. And we felt that that was really important to us for the longevity of reducing the amount of flares and reducing inflammation for, in turn, less flare ups. Because unfortunately, it's not something that we could cure. I hope one day we can get to the point that there's a cure for it, but this is a lifelong battle. And the whole idea is how can we make it easier to live with? And that was really important, not only for my father, which is the reason why we did all of this formulation in the beginning, but it's how do we tell everybody else that, hey, like this is a way that it can happen. We proved it. It's happened with us and our family. We've
Yeah.
done a clinical study on it. We've been published. The science is there. And, you know, as many people as we can get into the hands to and hear the results, like, and hear people say, hey, it worked for me. Like, that's why we're here. And, you know, it's not going to work for everybody. There's not one drug. I'm sure Dr. Lolis can attest to this. There's not, you know, there's some people that have not eczema or psoriasis, but have other health concerns. And they've got to go through an array of drugs before they find something that works for them. And I think somebody, and I'm saying this because I think I've seen a comment in the chat that said they're allergic to one of the ingredients. And I've heard that a couple of times.
Yeah.
And the thing is that the allergies that are there's so many different allergies that are part of this community. So not only does this community of chronic skin concerns have these skin concerns, but they also have all these different types of allergies. And there's no way that one company could know all of them, right? Because we're each so different. You know, something you'd never think somebody'd be allergic to, they can be allergic to. So I think if you try it and it doesn't work for you, we love the feedback still. But if it does work for you, we would love the feedback. We'd love to know more. Send us a DM, even leave a review on the website. But yeah, that's that.
The
Yeah, and
other
it's
thing I wanted to add about the Foilex, you know, we really, you can't really apply a steroid, or we're very cautious about applying steroids on sensitive areas like the face and folds. And so that's another great option. And, you know, to have in our kind of toolkit to treat eczema.
yeah.
So,
And eczema
and
is
believe it or
such
not, patients are actually allergic to steroids too. So,
yeah.
you know, like there's
Exactly.
no one like magic
One fits
pill.
One
all.
size. Yeah.
You can develop an allergy. You can be allergic to products. That's why you see allergists. But yeah, it's like impossible to, you know, have a product that will be successful for everyone. But overall, I think the majority of patients, you know,
Yeah.
aren't allergic and have had success with this
And maybe
product.
next time we can get a little bit more into statistics if people would like to know
Yeah, I'm
statistics
wondering
of the
which.
clinical trial.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
or wondering which ingredient the patient was allergic to.
We can
we
open
can
up the
ask in the chat.
comments.
We can
Yeah.
open the chat.
Bree,
But
do you want to go ahead and kind of dive into some of the comments that's been going on?
Yes, so I see one about TSW specifically. It says, in terms of TSW, have there been any proven connections between that and exfoliative dermatitis? We've been struggling with what we thought was TSW, but it biopsied as exfoliative dermatitis.
So exfoliative dermatitis is a kind of like an umbrella term, and it can involve different skin conditions. So, you know, I would say that you'd have to really pinpoint what type of exfoliative dermatitis it is. Not necessarily that it was caused by a steroid, but you know, then treat it that way. And there are other medications, prescription, which are not steroids, which could work. But first, you got to really see like what what is causing your exfoliative dermatitis, because that's kind of like an umbrella. term.
So, oh, that's interesting. Exfoliated dermatitis. So that umbrella includes,
It could be psoriasis, eczema, a
oh,
lot of different skin conditions.
so
Hmm, okay.
it's pretty much being biopsied as still eczema, psoriasis, and not
Yeah,
topical steroid withdrawal.
yeah.
Interesting. Um, the person who said they were allergic to one of the formulas said that it was turmeric is
Turmeric.
what they're allergic to.
The turmeric is in our Liverty drops.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with turmeric, that's another one that I haven't heard a lot of allergies with. I don't know if Dr. Lolis can speak on that one. Um, but just so that everybody knows, our drops are not extracted in alcohol. We stay away from alcohol extractions. Most common homeopathic medicine, Chinese medicine, herbal medicine is usually done in alcohol extracts.
Okay.
We don't use any alcohol extracts. Not to say that that could be okay for you. Always consult with your physician or anyone first. But I think it's really important to know that we do use oil extract here, and it's MCT.
Oh, awesome. Do we have any more comments that we want to pinpoint?
Our
Well,
docs won't.
someone has this comment about my dermatologist explained I gave an autoimmune disease. I have an autoimmune disease, then referred me to methotrexate to help my bad flare I've been on over 4 months. So methotrexate is a very common medication, which is used to suppress the immune system. So just because it's given for eczema, that does not mean you have an autoimmune disorder. It's immune regulated. You have overexpression of certain inflammatory markers, and so you're suppressing it with the methotrexate. So just because you're on methotrexate does not mean you have an autoimmune disorder.
That's interesting. I also see here our docs won't use the term TSW. So just to touch a little bit on that, that's kind of why I brought up the ITSAN, International Topical Steroid Awareness Network. Unfortunately, TSW is not a medical term yet. And with the work that's being done with ITSAN and this community of people, and our support at Phoilex, we hope that one day we get to the point where it is recognized. And they're doing a lot of work at ITSAN to create this patient registry where they are taking all the people that have TSW are now registering themselves on this registration, and hopefully it gets to a certain amount where the CDC can now accept that, and that one day TSW is a term. So maybe that person is going through TSW, but because it's not recognized medically yet, it's still being treated as the umbrella, the exfoliated dermatitis, I believe it was called. So if you want to learn more about that, I do recommend you check out itsan.org. There's so much really amazing resources there, people there that will definitely learn so much. It's actually how I learned about TSW.
Same,
Um,
same.
yeah. So it wasn't until my dad started going through some crazier flares that during formulation, when we finally stopped the steroids, curled turkey, when we felt that we were getting to a really good place with our formula. He had still been using the steroids and our formula at the same time. Things were getting better. So we're like, okay, let's cold turkey the steroids after being on them for 45 years, using them day in, day night, scalp to toe. And his skin went bonkers. And it was like he had third-degree burns, and it got really bad. And I was really scared.
Yeah.
And Dr. Papa
Scary.
Sergio said, okay, your dad's having adverse side effects from removing the steroids. I said, what? What adverse side effects? So I Googled it.
Yeah.
And then when I Googled it, I came across the ITSAD network, and I'm like, oh my God, that actually made this passion of mine grow 10 times bigger, because now there's like this mission that I'm on to educate. So that brings a lot of this education to us at Foilex. Because now I realize that there's millions of other people in the world that were going through TSW when trying to try something different. So yeah, really great organization. Definitely recommend you follow them if you're not, and learn more with them.
We have some questions in the question section. This one, I think it's like for the group. What's the best way to support family or friends that are dealing with chronic skin or eczema issues in terms of getting them gifts for holidays or birthdays and worried about some things that might trigger an unwanted skin response? What's the best way to bring that up in a conversation?
That's such a good question.
I agree.
Bree, do you have any
Yeah, I was gonna
specific?
say we should
Yeah,
ask you two. I feel like you two would be the perfect person for this question.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that, well, I love that question. I think that's a very sweet and thoughtful
Yeah.
question. I think that just asking, or so it depends where they are in their eczema journey. I tend to shy away from wanting gifts of skincare from other people just because they don't know, what ingredients I'm trying to avoid or what, and it kind of avoids an awkward conversation of, thank you so much. Like, I'm probably not going
Not
to
gonna use
use
this.
this. And the other thing about eczema is, there are so many there's so many products that I want to try, but you have to time it very specifically. Like, I might not be in the state to try a new product if my skin is actively flaring right now. So I would say, at least for myself, getting like actual skincare products maybe is not the best option for somebody
Right.
with a chronic skin condition, but maybe something that is not actually like a skincare product. So like, meaning like not a lotion or not something with ingredients you're putting on your body, but maybe something that can be supportive to skin. Like she just had the Flaunt Your Flare event, and one of the items in the goodie bag was an ice pack. That is an amazing tool for an eczema sufferer, or maybe something to make like traveling easier, or if there is I guess kind of just like skin supporting, but not a specific skincare product. Since everybody, like we said earlier in the live, what works for me may not work for you, and vice
Right.
versa. And so I would shy away from actual skincare products, I think.
Yeah. And fragrances, perfumes.
Fragrances are huge.
Oh,
Yeah.
Anything
No
yes.
fragrance.
perfumes, no
I'm actually
fragrances.
allergic to perfume, so I can never wear perfume.
Oh
And when I get a
wow.
perfume as a present, I feel horrible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe not candles. We're kind of hard to
Yes.
shop for. I'm
we
realizing.
are. We are. I actually did a reel on this, and I think in the reel I added like a tongue scraper, like red light therapy, and
Red
ice
light. I was gonna
pack.
say
Yeah,
red
red
light
light
Like,
therapy is
therapy.
good.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I
anything
Um,
that's
also
self-care, self-soothing. It does not have to be a product, but
yeah.
Yeah,
hypochlorous acid is also really good. Like the
Yeah.
Tower 28 has a hypochlorous
that's a good
acid. That's
Yeah.
a
one.
cute
yeah,
little skincare product, or like a Aquaphor type you know, lip
yeah,
balm, or even a
yeah.
Yeah.
humidifier. You never know, or
A
like
The
nice warm
humidifier.
humidifiers, that's a
pajamas.
great one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I agree with
Somebody
you.
in the comments said, ask your people. I have to ask every year what is helpful or useful. And I think that's true. Communication is the best. Just ask. Um,
Yeah,
my answer some years might just be like, let's just hang out. I don't want a gift. Let's just, the gift of
yeah,
quality time.
yeah. Watching movie.
Yes, exactly.
Nice.
Also,
Okay. And were
we
there
have
any
more
others that
questions.
we
Oh,
that we
yes. Give me
missed?
1 second.
I'm trying
We talked about the exfoliative dermatitis. Is there any way to combat overuse of products turning into an allergy or irritant?
Um, Not really. I mean, so to develop an allergy, you kind of need to build up to it. So that's why you might be you can develop an allergy at any time, really.
to.
So, unfortunately, there's no such thing as overuse. I think it's more like just
There's
like
even somebody
exposure,
here
like
that
the
says,
cumulative exposure of a product
mhm.
that eventually sensitizes you.
Something that ties into that is somebody that asks if they suggest if you would suggest if I come in for a consult first before I try anything new on my skin. My skin is super sensitive, so I get scared trying new things, which I think is a big thing in the community. I've learned this being at the eczema show every year. Like they want to take a sample, but they're like, I don't know, I might not get to it anytime soon. I'm really scared. So
Yeah.
I always we say to patch test, but Dr.
Yeah.
Lolis, I'll let you.
Yeah, I mean, so having a consult is always a great idea. You can go to your dermatologist and they can kind of recommend very, um, gentle products like Vanicream is the one I mostly recommend in terms of wash. They can go over gentle skincare, like taking a quick lukewarm shower. Um, but if you have, you might think you have super sensitive skin and you have rosacea. So you might be, you know, think you have an allergy, but in reality you have rosacea. But, also seeing an allergist is always super helpful because they can pinpoint if you are allergic to something.
I love when I've been using a product for a really long time and then suddenly it starts, I start reacting to it. That's the best.
Yeah.
That's great. It's like never get too comfortable.
Exactly.
Well, I just want to say this has been super informative. I want to personally thank Serena and the Phoilex team for having this conversation and being such an advocate for those of us that live with eczema and also a topical steroid withdrawal. I really appreciate you guys being innovative and kind of pioneering this conversation. My name is Chi. We have
Bree.
Dr. Lolis.
Serena.
And we just want to thank all of you guys for coming to the conversation, being a part, asking us questions. I hope that you know you're not alone. Your story matters, and together we're stronger. And that is why we're here, and that is the work that we're doing, is just opening these conversations and having more spaces and room for people to feel heard, seen, and connected. Are there any other last words? Or where can we
No
find Dr.
questions.
Lolis? Where can we
Oh,
find you?
okay, sure. I practice in Bergen County, New Jersey. um, Hackensack to be specific. So anyone from the area, I'd be more than happy to meet you, treat you, and help you on your journey.
Thank you.
And Bree?
Yeah, I just wanted to again thank Foilex for allowing me to participate and to remind everyone again that you are not alone. My goal in sharing my journey online, my handle is Home Around You. My goal in sharing my journey is to make eczema feel less lonely. And so I hope that I'm making an impact in even a small way there.
And I want to say thank you to everybody. I feel like this live keeps getting bigger and better every time. We have a really exciting one coming up. I don't think I should announce it just yet until we have dates and whatnot, but I'm really excited about the next one. I think it's a lot around CSW, it's a lot around all of those questions and resources. So stay tuned. We will all be announcing that shortly. And thank you again to all you guys for helping moderate this live and having this discussion with everyone.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you,
Awesome.
Serena.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
Serena. Thank you,
You too.
everyone.
Take care. Have a good night.
Bye.